What's up, everybody? Circus here, coming at you with yet another discussion video because that's what we do here, right, Kamel?
No,
All right.
that's right. And some pretty divisive things have happened in the game.
Yes.
Something that we didn't think was going to happen in a very long time. Hey, Trunade got banned. One of the first very oppressive semi-limited cards that we got. They were hit in that huge wave along with Enemy Controller, Treacherous Trap Hole, all those super impactful cards at the time.
Yeah. Got the semi-limit, and then it got banned from the game. There's only been a handful of cards that have been banned from the game. Not even a full handful, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've been watching a lot of our tournaments lately, like we do on Twitch, like 5 days a week, 6 days a week. We're doing tournaments, and a lot of games lately have been decided by Treacherous Trap Hole, and it just the chat just starts getting so mad, because a lot of them are competitive players, and a lot of them just hate the fact that Treacherous Trap Hole is in the game. So my question for you, Kamel, is it time for TTH to get a ban from the game? A complete 100% ban?
I do not think so yet. And the main reason why I don't think so is because when something is, banned from the game, or something is extremely limited, like goes from having you can play 3 to 1, they do it for a really great reason, right? Either this card is too oppressive, or they want to shift what that card does into archetypes themselves and not just generic cards. So
Okay.
I think before we can have the talk of banning TTH, we have to have more decks that can, destroy multiple monsters at one time. Monsters that can wipe the whole board. Monsters that can, do a lot of stuff in archetypes so that we don't lose much from the game when we take away TTH. There's still very powerful archetypes that can perform these huge removal effects at once that are just as impactful as Treacherous Trap Hole, but you get that destruction as a reward for playing out your strategy correctly.
But okay, so back to why would we get rid of Hey Trunade then? Because you were saying if TTH gets taken out, it should be because there's monster effects or whatever, a deck strategy that can do that instead. Well, is there really something that can do that instead for Hey Trunade?
Well, with Hey Trunade, they released Mystical Space Typhoon, so that was it.
And that's enough?
That's enough. That's it.
Mystical Space
Typhoon's in the game.
I mean, we had Cosmic Cyclone before.
Yeah, but it's just another option, one
Right.
that you don't have to, pay a cost for, something that revolves less around, life point activation for skills, which is actually not that much of a thing anymore outside of Destiny Draw. But I think the main reason Hey Trunade was taken out of the game just because there were more options for back removal overall, but decks were still a specific type of deck. OTK decks, very fast, aggressive decks, were always defaulting to Hey Trunade because that is how you get the most value by far out of your hand and your turn. The best decks against OTK decks are control decks, back row decks, and Hey Trunade just removes their entire thing at once. So they don't want those decks to have access to that. And they've released other back row options that are less punishing than Cosmic Cyclone, but are not as powerful as Hey Trunade. So I do believe that was enough reason for them to remove it from the game, as well as the fact that they didn't want to have to balance future decks around it, because it was always a problem. Now question for you.
Okay.
Right? What decks do you think abuse TTH the most, right? And if you ban it, what are those decks that utilize it going to do?
I think the decks that do it the most are ones that don't have a lot of built-in, like you said, effects within the monsters. So I think a lot of older decks. I was thinking from an older deck perspective. I think a lot of older decks use it to be able to play. Maybe decks that aren't quite as good that you can sneak it into. I don't obviously Shiranui already runs too many traps, but decks
well, guess
are
what?
I'll
stuff
give
like
you
a
that.
perfect example, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's favorite synchro decks that came around. Guess what card they're all running, man? TTH, because they don't have built-in destruction effects. Resonators, despite how good they are, consistent, They are a chain synchro summoning deck. They do not have built-in destruction.
I was thinking them too.
Have
But
to,
they do have some removal, but
in their synchro monsters, right?
Right, a little bit, yeah, but not a lot. Where the TTH, I think a lot of times like it just completely shuts down someone's summoning sequence, and then they're just done for the game. Like you think of like Harpies, they run it, or a lot of decks run it
as well.
But you hit Harpies on their first turn, and they don't have like a Swallow's Nest or something, they're done. The game's over. No, because next turn you're probably going to be able to like do your thing and finish them off, or you should be able to, right?
So I don't think we're in a place in Duel Links where a lot of these decks, they're not powerful on their own, and which has always been the case. Just decks have been powerful on their own. Let me not say that, right? But
my case is just for like older decks to be able to keep up. So I think there's a lot of people that play. I can't think. Of course, I can't think of one right off the top of my head. But stuff that was out like a year ago that you still play, you still want to keep playing, and you want to slap one of those in. So when resonators start going off, you're just like, TTH, I'm back in the game because my deck takes 2 to 3 turns to set up. Yours takes 1 turn. This is going to make it so I can at least draw another card and have a chance to play the game.
Yeah, and I do believe, Treacherous Trap Hole, I don't think people have ever called it a necessary evil, but at this point in the game where we are, I think it is, because we're at a very transitional period. They're slowly starting to have faith in the game and give us more powerful effects, more complex archetypes. So hopefully, right, we can get to a point where banning TTH can be a conversation point, because hopefully at that point, the rest of the game would have grown around it. We're getting new archetypes that are, powerful and they're competent. They may not all be tiered, but they can all, do their thing on their own, and they all have access to many or most of the functions of a deck, removal, searching, all of those things. And then as we get those decks with a lot of those built-in functionalities, we can see these staple cards start to like really get hit. And TTH may be one of the next one.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look and see here. I think it came out in what? Rampage of the Forest had Hey Trunade, and I was just thinking, when that came out, what was hot at the time also, and there wasn't a lot of stuff that could do a lot of like chain summoning.
Yeah, Sylvans was very hot at the time.
You also had Valiant Souls come out after Hey
Trunade. The meta then was Spellbook, Sylvans, and Heroes.
So Heroes could pop off a little bit, but I guess they had to like limit Hey Trunade because Heroes came out and they could pop off. But like the other decks at the time, they weren't ever like they couldn't chain summon like you see now. So like if you hit someone with a Hey Trunade, it was still I summon 1 monster and attack. It was it was basically so you could get your normal summon off and not like get it floodgated or whatever. Whereas now, like you were saying with Hey Trunade, people just drop that Hey Trunade OTK because you can't even interact at that point.
Right. It got to the point where Trunade, for the past, I would say, year and a half, it was a detriment it was more of a detriment to the game than it was a positive addition. We saw like Dragoonides most famously had their deck butchered time and time again because of the fact that Hey Trunade was a card that they had to use to function, because we didn't have access to other parts of the archetype that could have made it powerful. So the deck had to default to Trunade, and the deck got demolished on the ban list because of it, and it never got to see play. So kudos to Konami for preventing that from happening, but it's going to take a lot more, I think, for to justify that happening to a card like Treacherous Trap Hole. So I do not think Duel Links is at the point where Treacherous needs to be banned.
I almost think the case for Treacherous Trap Hole being banned is stronger for when it first came out, because it came out in the same era that Hey Trunade did, and it was a little bit harder to chain summon. I'm looking right now. For Hire came out a couple boxes later. That one could chain summon, so you could hit it with a Treacherous Trap Hole and slow it down, but not completely shut it down. But like other decks that were out at the time,
the only other deck that came out that could compete were Heroes and Amazonas.
Well, Sylvans. Sylvans wasn't really special summoning too much. They could a little bit, but they had the built-in Rose Lover protection, because Rose Lover made the monster unaffected by traps or whatever, protected from trap effects. So TTH wouldn't take it out. But I think like if you were playing like just even an older deck at that time, TTH would just completely shut you down. You're like, I'm dead.
Yep.
But now, let's say you got a TTH set and a Resonator player goes, it's their first turn. They go Crimson into the Wild King or whatever his name is, and you wipe that. If they got another Crimson in their hand, they just start playing again.
Yeah, and I do believe, you just have to look out for that. That's just you knowing what deck you're going up against.
Right.
And that's why Treacherous is okay right now, because there are many decks that can survive a Treacherous off rip. It's not like we were playing in 2019,
Right.
2018 more where it meant instant death. And hopefully, right, that's the first step, right? There are decks that can survive against Treacherous.
Mm-hmm.
And then we need decks that have built-in Treacherous, right?
Right.
That's not what people want to hear, but if that card is to be removed, the other decks that have to be able to do that, or stuff like that.
So I guess in the end, maybe it's not really time yet for TTH to be banned. What do you think?
I definitely don't believe so. And another thing, people always saying, Kamel, why you hate all these other archetypes? Man, we need these newer cards from the Xyz era that's already in the game. And once Pendulums gets online, we're gonna have a ton of stuff. Hopefully, they spoil us with some very powerful cards. That is what we want. And if we get that, maybe you guys can have your TTH back. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
All right, so let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Is it time to get TTH out of here? I don't think so. It just sucks when you get hit by one. That's all.
Yeah.
I think is what it comes down to. So let us know what you think in the comments below. We're going to get out of here, but you should get in the Discord because it's free. The tournaments are free, and the new player help is free. I'm Circus. That's Kamel.
Peace out.
And we'll see you next time.